pantheon of Indian Reserve Bank governors, in fact in the pantheon of global central bankers, one name shines alone and shines almost like a star, and that is Dr. V Reddy. This statement didn't come from me. In fact, Joseph Stiglitz, in the height of the 2008 crisis, actually said if the United States had V Reddy as its governor, probably the global financial crisis would not have happened. I have with me Dr. V Reddy himself, and that's because he has written a book which I think anybody who follows central banking would love to read. It is his memoirs. But, there is a big but, it is in Telugu. So, Dr. Reddy, that really is the first question. Why in Telugu, sir? We are all students of public finance and we are so eager to read. Why did you write it in Telugu?
First of all, let me correct. It is autobiography, more than memoirs. It's autobiography and it is in Telugu. My memoirs, in the sense of dealing with policy issues, that will be in English to satisfy people.
Oh, that is very good.
And it will come in the next 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And I must also tell you the title. It's being published by HarperCollins. The title is Advice and Dissent.
Oh.
I believe in my life in policy making, because all my life, and that's what comes out, that I think for a civil servant or an economist, it is right to advise. And it's obligation to dissent if you feel strongly. Not just end with advice, I think. So that's how I would sum up.
Also your role as a governor.
Absolutely, role as a governor.
Well, someone has helped me translate most of the chapter headings, but I'm straight away going to chapter 23. Or rather, yeah, chapter 23, which is on the BOP crisis. What was your role? Do you see yourself as having, mitigated that crisis in any fashion?
Actually, there are 3 parts to the whole issue. When I was there from 90 to 93, first is the stress.
Okay.
Then it became crisis, and crisis has to be managed. And then you have the reform. Now, essentially, it is real. Actually, the title chapter of the title of the crisis is Arthikamu, Rajakayamu, when both politics and economics interact. And that's what happened. So, in a way, BOP crisis was really a crisis of political leadership, which could not handle the economic problems because they did not have stability or...
Oh, there was a political vacuum at that time.
In essence, yes, that's right. So, and therefore in those 3 years, we had 3 prime ministers, 3 finance ministers, 3 finance secretaries.
But 1 banking secretary.
No, joint secretary.
Okay, joint secretary.
I was joint secretary in charge of balance of payments.
Okay.
So therefore I was sort of a continuing factor. And in a way, while the decision making was at far higher level, I was merely joint secretary, but I had 2 advantages. One is I was the only continuing factor, and secondly, I knew almost all the players. And so they trusted whoever came. And so in that sense, I was privy to information and to some extent assistance, and perhaps even advice and dissent.
Okay. But in that case, whom would you give credit? To the economists? Would you give credit to the bureaucrats? Or would you give credit to the political leadership?
I think as far as the economists is concerned, they have warned about the situation, both in the government, from outside the government. And as far as the bureaucrats are concerned, I think I'm sure they were also aware. I think in a way, therefore, the problem was essentially political management. And in that sense, it could be resolved only by proper political leadership. So if I have to give credit, I'll give it entirely to political management by the Prime Minister of the day, P.V. Narasimha Rao.
Okay.
Because the problem was essentially political. The problem and the solution were known to the economists, to the bureaucrats, and both had briefed the political leadership. They didn't have authority or the skill or the capacity. So, therefore, I would say the credit for resolving. Now, the circumstances were favorable, all that is a different matter. When bureaucrats and economists were equipped, and in some senses, they made it happen. But the clinching factor, the same economists, the same bureaucrats were available even before.
Chapter 27 is the chapter where you are speaking about stepping into RBI. Now, it was translated, and I was told that you were defense secretary, and you rejected that, and you became deputy governor. Now, that looks like a lower position. Why did you agree?
Frankly, yes, I was told that I was being posted as Defence Secretary, and some alternatives were also indicated and Montek mentioned to me. But somehow I felt that I had interest in economics, and I was wanted in the Reserve Bank of India. So I moved over as Deputy Governor. I've been, Rangarajan Sab was asking me, so I agreed.
Okay. But would you do it even now? I mean, are you happy with that decision you took? Even now, if you have Secretary and Deputy Governor, would you be Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank?
At this point, this time? No, no way.
No?
No way.
Why do you say that?
In those days, there was a feeling that Deputy Governor is almost equal to Secretary.
Secretary?
Yes.
Deputy Governor was asked.
Because Governor was very much above. He was almost on par with the Minister. That's the general. There was no formal protocol, and there was a certain.
So you would say that from your time to now, the Governor's position has been devalued. And therefore the Deputy Governors also.
Whatever it is, definitely I think there is a problem, especially after the legal amendments in the way the Governor is selected, the way Deputy Governor is selected, the way they are interviewed. Basically, let me tell you, if a Deputy Governor has to be selected by an interview by a Secretary, I was myself a Secretary. I can't be interviewed by colleagues and juniors for a job. There's no way I would go. Isn't it?
So you think it should be restored to the Governor because up until this current change where the Cabinet Secretary is in charge of several appointments, the Governor used to appoint the Deputy Governor.
No, at the moment I think there's a committee where the Cabinet Secretary is the chairman, Governor is a member. So in a way, therefore, now I think, let me be very frank, I have a feeling that the RBI is treated as a regulator. There's a confusion at a philosophical level. There are two types of confusion. To be very frank, my own suspicion is that the institutional identity of the RBI has been damaged. Okay. Let me be frank.
Okay.
See, earlier, the Reserve Bank of India is a monetary authority, yes, but it's a full-service central bank. It was in charge of many other things. The recent emphasis appeared as though that monetary policy is the main function. The Governor is accountable to monetary policy. Then he is not accountable to regulation. He is not accountable to currency coins. There is a confusion about relative importance. Not that relative importance is being decided more outside than within.
So there are two problems. One, upgrading or taking out monetary policy.
As putting it on a pedestal.
And in your time, even the governor in charge of banking supervision would be involved in the
protest, currency coins, everything.
All
the
of
whole part, yes, because it's
now they are taken out of monetary policy.
In a way, instead of being a full service central bank, it is primarily monetary and the rest. That's number one. There's a problem that's coming up. There's a second issue. In many of these procedures, they say all the regulators, and then the RBI comes in, is the procedure applicable. The procedure applicable for a regulator has to be different from a procedure applicable to the monetary authority, a central bank. In a central bank, regulation is one function. One, and just merely one. And to say that head of an institution who performs 8 functions, and one function is regulation, is equal to, and that's performed essentially with Deputy Governor, is equal to other regulators, I think there is some lack of clarity.
So this devaluation has been happening for some time then. I mean, from the FSDC, I mean...
yes, it's not very recent.
Yes, it's an evolving devaluation.
Yes, it's cut across political affiliation. And there's a third disturbing factor. See, the regulator is being sort of an umpire maintaining integrity. The Reserve Bank of India is creating money, is destroying money, and that's a different character, particularly in our system, where banking is most important. And in the final analysis, and particularly for our country, the financial stability function should have been with a non-political setup like Governor RBI. Now that initiative has gone to the government. In most emerging market economies, the financial instability and political instability happen at the same time, as it happened even when I was there in 2004. So therefore, it's quite possible that a central bank without the same stature will not be able to handle instability when there is a political vacuum. So I think it is
dangerous to take away financial stability from RBI.
And I would even go to the extent of saying that particularly recent events, I have seen the comments from economists, from Standard & Poor, and they are disturbing. For the Reserve Bank, for a central bank, reputational risk is the worst risk. Credibility is the worst risk. And if this is happening in the international opinion, I think I would say that it is a national problem now. And I think politically, it's just not a political issue. It's not a... I think it's time. It's like army, which is security of the country, the financial and monetary security of the country. So I think there should be a debate at this juncture, given the type of comments internationally, cutting across political parties, that what should be the nature of central bank and what it should be, how it should be run.
So a national effort to restore the status and the reputation of Reserve Bank.
I'm not saying, I'm not going into the status. The question is that there is a problem of reputation, and the reputation cannot be ascribed entirely to individuals. There has been institutional changes and procedural changes which have created confusion about the identity itself and effectiveness, and therefore the reputation. Now, what should be the new structure? There should be better clarity about the new structure. The old framework, whatever the background, which committee, which commission, which judge produced it, we need not go into it. The limited point is the central bank, the role of central bank in our economy is under threat, and it's a national problem which has to be addressed as a national problem.
That will call for a 1-hour interview with you separately, sir. We need to take a break at this juncture, but the big question we need to ask Dr. Reddy is the current fight about black money and what he has made of demonetization. That very interesting question coming back in a minute.